Hey guys, welcome back to another review. We're back, and after doing all of the Rocky films, 1 through 6, we thought it was fitting to really finish this off and do the Creed franchise as well. So we're back and we're doing Creed. This will be the last boxing movie we do for a while because we want to tackle on some different projects. But we had mentioned in our first take, this is our second take because some shit went wrong. We had mentioned in our take that we were going to do this, but I like the idea of it. We're going to go ahead and do the National Treasure movies next. So look forward to that in the future, unless you're from the future, in which case, future man, better stop fucking looking at all the videos and time traveling, you sicko.
Okay.
Get here. Get out of here! No, come back. I want you to watch this video. No, you can stay. You got any Raisin Bran? Alright, get all the raisins. Now it's just raisin. No brand. Give me a photo of just raisins, Bran. So, James, how does this movie start off? Go for it. Let's do it.
It starts off with a young Creed, or Adonis, in juvie because he got into a fight because, so the other guy dissed him, so fists.
We start off with the young Adonis Creed, and he basically he pummels this kid, and it's really funny. It's just kind of like very beginning, like, oh shit. He gets a bit hit too as well, but then he gets taken away from the situation. Starts off in juvie, and you're kind of like, okay, where's this going? And then a lady comes to visit him, an elderly lady. She kind of talks to him about his problems, his anger, and where his family is. We learn that his mom is no longer present, and that he really doesn't have any family. Never really knew his dad, and he notifies him. Well, your anger and all this, your style. You're kind of like you remind me of my husband, and kind of talks about who his dad was, right? And this movie beautifully opens up, and we talked about this. It opens up, it fades in. What it does is it starts off with him. He says, "What was his name?" Right, and then it fades to black, and then fades in the title screen of Creed. And I thought that was really well done, a real great transition, just a real great way to do the title screen. Kind of, you got a legacy to live up to when it comes to Rocky with the whole, Rocky coming on the side panel and stuff. So it was thing. Do you think so, James? Do you think it was kind of the same level?
I think it was better.
Yeah, no, I think for modern day, I think it was really good. Not too many movies have good title screen transitions. They either opt to not show it at all, and then they do it at the very end of the movie, or they just flash it quick and be like, all right. I don't know, there's a subtle art to it. But after that, I forgot. He's where is he next?
He's in Tijuana, Mexico, in an underground fight, which mirrors the underground fight in the first Rocky film.
Yeah.
Only he's not losing.
And then right after that, right? Boom, we're back into like a professional setting, and he's like working at a desk job. He's about to get promoted, or he's just been promoted or something like that. And he basically just kind of walks in and just goes, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. He literally wakes up one day and goes, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this, right? And he leaves. He quits his job, and we see him just kind of reminiscing later on, watching YouTube videos of his old man, Apollo, basically boxing and fighting the very first fight with Rocky in the very first film. And it's just really, there's this, what's the word, nostalgic feel that you feel while watching, and you're like, holy shit, like I gotta say, you gotta watch all the Rocky films to watch this one, really. It's really impressive.
It was...
Camerawork. That was on my notes here. Camerawork here.
On par.
I have to say, it was on par. First of all, right after basically kind of deciding he wants to become a boxer, he gets a little bit, cocky.
I mean,
he's Creed's son, so he's still, he's like his father in many ways, and not in all the good ways too. He's got a bit of a temper, got a bit of an attitude, got a bit of a mojo to him, and he lets his mouth do the talking sometimes, and it just, unfortunately, like literally, like very early on in the movie,
gets him in trouble.
it gets him in trouble, and this dude comes up to him, and you're fucking like, they fight, and like after like challenging a whole gym, he fights the dude, he wins. Then he fights a second dude, right, who's like, oh, I'm gonna deal with this guy, and he gets knocked the fuck out. But what's so cool is that during this fight, the camera work follows him when he gets knocked out, and it just does this weird side pan like slam, and it's like you're following him during his literal fall from grace, and it's just, oh
really
my god,
impressive.
it's so well done, dude. That's so good. One of my favorite things in this film is definitely callbacks to Rocky 6. I love to see the respect for the franchise at hand. And so when he goes to visit Rocky to basically, see the man and basically ask him if he can train him and shit, he visits him in his restaurant. And I love seeing that the restaurant makes a return where Rocky kind of still, living out retirement and stuff. And, they talk about stuff, important things like Mickey and the importance of Mickey and how he was to him, and then how he trained with Apollo afterwards, and basically kind of alluding to the fact that he knows about all this shit. And he's like, okay, well, how do you know this, right? And they were right there with Rocky as a Rocky fan, having watched all these things. You're basically, okay, who's this kid to come in and talk to Rocky like this and to be, lay it out all on the line like that?
Yeah, like how does he know this stuff? And he's like, how do you think? And then that's where it clicks, like he's Creed's son.
Yeah, and he starts to kind of piece it together based on just his attitude, the look of him, and the way he's been, just the way he carries himself, really. Very similar to his dad. Behind the I'm looking at the thing. One of the things that I wanted to mention here was also the fact that towards the end of the conversation when he meets him is about a secret fight that happened between Apollo and Rocky, and he basically asks him, who won this secret fight, because the first fight was from the first film, the second fight was in the second film, the third fight we never really see it on screen. We see the start of it at the very end of Rocky 3 where they go to punch each other and they go slow, but that was like the secret exhibition.
I saw the end of it in Rocky 4, at the beginning of Rocky 4 with the black eye and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But we just see kind of the beginning end, but we're not really sure. So after all these years, you're like, what's going on? Are they going to keep it a secret? And for a good most movies would have kept it a secret throughout the film, and then at a moment really needed. But instead, the movie in the film chooses to not do that, and instead he tells him right away, no second thought, no nothing. He basically tells him right there and then, he did. And it takes a lot of gut, it takes a lot of strength to basically admit that, because admitting that, and technically, if it's 1-1 and he won the third fight, then it makes Apollo and the better fighter. And I think Rocky truly believes that Apollo was a better fighter, and there's this respect for the man that he still has even after all these years he's been passed, like 30 odd years later, and he still has like a profound respect for the man, and it's awesome. It's really cool to see it played out here.
Yeah, it's great.
That once he finally decides to take him under, there's a bit of a hesitation there, but once he decides to finally take him under his training, there's training definitely is mirrorizing the first film, especially things like
time.
Well, what was the one thing that he does? The
chicken.
The chicken, yeah. Hey, give me the chicken from Family Guy. Now put Creed trying to grab him.
God.
I'm going to have one of the other editors take on this project. I want to see if they can do it. But for the most part, these have all been me doing these ones, but we're trying to expand our crew. If you're looking for a job, you're not going to get paid, but you can do some editing.
But I'm like, it was good to see that nostalgia, because like Mickey did it with him, and he's like giving him a hard time not to catch him, and then Rocky's doing the same thing with Creed. It's great. It's funny.
It's really neat to see kind of the same teaching mentality, and that's also another thing that I have to say. Really, this just fleshes out Rocky and makes Rocky just such a fucking cool guy.
Yeah.
I love Rocky's character, and I do like Adonis' Creed's character in this film as well. I find that he goes from very, very, very arrogant and becomes a little bit more graceful and a little bit more humble and stuff like that. And so on the line, he's, becoming a better character. But you can definitely see Rocky slipping into the role of mentor in this one.
Yeah.
as and doing a really good job at that.
He's like a father figure, really.
Yeah. So after all this training, he goes up against Leo, and Leo has a fucking win streak of 17-0, and he's a champ. The transition from celebrating first KO to beat, like, is just something else as well. I was
Yeah.
jumping ahead here, my guy.
All these guys have like these bios, like sort of that does
Yeah,
their
the
weight
bios
and
fly
stuff.
in and stuff like that. It feels like comic book esque, but then I look at the when it was filmed, and it was like, oh, these are before movies started doing that. So,
Yeah,
but
out
you
of
could
its
see a
time.
precursor to it. But a little fun fact: the director of this film is the same director who directed the Black Panther movies. So, a
Mm.
movie. I'm assuming he'll do the second one, but. James, how do you feel about the camera work for all the transitions that they do? We know we touched base on it a
I
bit at the
love
beginning of this, but yeah.
I love the camera work in this film because
One of the yeah.
it's so fluid and dynamic. It's kind of like what like real boxing like camera work should be. Like you're flowing with the punches and hits, and even as like as the as he gets knocked out, it follows him as he get knocked out. So that's
Yeah. That was just the overall feel of it feels more like a real life boxing movie. I have to say, I'm just trying to touch base on some of my notes here. When he first wins against Leo, and then it's like they're celebrating, and then that transition to him just feeling like tired and beat up and stuff. I thought that was really well done.
the good juxtaposition. Is a good contrast.
Now,
Like
a
you're
big
on
thing
cloud nine.
we have to talk about though, before I keep it, because I'm looking at my notes. I'm like, oh man, I really want to hit all these.
Yeah.
Rocky has cancer in this one.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
spoiler. Spoiler. I'm sorry, I said it. I should just say spoiler first. But Rocky has cancer,
And he keeps it quiet.
and
Out
Rocky
of like
doesn't want to, and he keeps it quiet.
as
And,
any
and I
sane
think it's really
person would.
affecting him a huge bit because this is the same kind of stuff that his wife had to go through, and obviously she doesn't make it. And before we continue, man, Paulie's dead in this movie
Yeah.
as well. Paulie's been,
R.I.P.
has passed away. Rest in peace to Paulie, even though he wasn't doing anything. Now he's still kind of here, I guess, because he's not doing anything.
Grimace Crates now, so yeah.
But you know what? He gets the news, and he's still in the midst of training Creed. Leading up to the big finale in the fight, and he doesn't let it get himself down. But Creed refuses that he'll continue unless he seeks out the help that he deserves.
And he denies treatment
And it
because
exactly denies treatment. And one of the notes that we wrote here was that Rocky's fight with cancer mirrors Adonis's fight coming up. The fighting spirit within both of them. I think that's a great note. It really is. That's exactly what it is, and I think that's what the film set out to do, and it did a wonderful job doing so. The training montage, as always, is a great. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it's definitely more modernized for like today's standards and for what he would be going through. But I think a big thing that we need to touch on as well is him refusing to go by Creed. He goes by his other last name, Johnson. And he kind of wants to make it on his own, but when they go to do the first fight, they basically say, not the first fight, but the big final fight. Part of the deal is that he has to go under the name of Creed, and one of the things is him coming to term of the legacy that he's not going to let him down, but he's going to make his own way and be his own person. He's not going to let that define him, and that's a big part of this whole movie is really legacy, trying to make it on your own.
Also, there's another
giant legacy to have. What's up?
Also, sorry. Also, there's another character, Bianca, who's battling with like deafness.
Yeah, his soon to be his girlfriend and of the film. She's battling hearing loss and stuff like that, and so it's kind of the spirit and fight it within you as characters, and for them as the characters really to their fighting spirit is really a big one as well. But I wanted to touch base on here. A big part of the movie, a gigantic part, is wearing his dad's colors when he finally gets it. That's a fucking moment. right?
That's such a.
It's like
That's a,
it's
oh,
and
it's
you know what's
powerful.
weird, right? Is it's powerful. This movie definitely has cinematography wise is where it's probably the best it's ever been. And now I'm talking myself up. I was gonna give it an 8 out of 10, but I'm gonna give it something else now. Um, One of the things that I thought was wonderful, not only is just the final fight, but leading up to the final fight when they're going in, their choice not to use music at all, and instead hearing the transition from absolutely, the idea of the stillness and the thoughts that must be going through their head, and then that lead up to while you're getting to the crowd gets louder and louder and louder, and it's like that is.
It builds up an ambience.
Sound wise was just oh my god, like it's really cool. I've never really noticed that in films before. There are other films that have done stuff like that similar, but this was for a cinematography for a movie that's just Rocky should be just simple boxing and shit. It's very powerful shit. The imagery and everything that this film has, definitely really great.
We gotta talk about his opponent.
He beats Ricky, aka Pretty Boy. Or he doesn't beat him, does he? Does he beat him?
No. He doesn't.
Oh my god, he comes very close though, and it's very similar, like I said, to the first one. But like, even though he didn't win, like the crowd is nuts for him because of all the shit that he has to go through during the fight. And there's no more arrogant Creed. Instead, he's this humble man who's basically earned the respect of the crowd. He's earned the title of his dad's namesake.
He earned the respect of Ricky himself.
Exactly, and he earns his opponent's respect as well. So, and this guy's like a real troublemaker and everything. But that's the film. We don't want to talk much about the final fight because I think the final fight, everything else about it is just well done. I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to see it. You have to see it. So we're going to say you definitely need to experience this one. If you've watched all the Rocky films and been holding out on seeing Creed for whatever reason, or one other, or you're going to be like prejudiced about some certain things, don't let that get you down. This movie's awesome. Check it out. I'm giving it now a 9 out of 10. That's my final rating for it. I was going to give it an 8, but talking about the sound and all the different things leading up to it makes this film wonderful. It's just a great watch. James, what are you giving it?
I'm giving it a 9 as well. It's a fantastic love. It's a fantastic love letter to Rocky films. So
exactly. I think this has been our longest Rocky review, but we had a lot to say about this one. This one was great.
Yeah.
It's a great film. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sticking around. If you have not yet already, thanks. Go ahead and like the video. Comment if you'd like. I love reading them in the bottom if you guys do, even though nobody does. And subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks again. And thank you to my team for helping us out and getting this all ready and working. We'll definitely be heading with you guys up with the second Rocky review, so stay tuned for that. Thanks again. See you guys next time. I'm Ethan.
I'm James.
And we'll see you on the next BrainDeadStudios review.